So the podcast I chose to listen to was episode number 48. It was uploaded on July 27th of 2017, and it featured the guest Jonah Peretti. The reason I chose this episode was I was actually looking for some of the most interesting episodes, so I Googled top 10, and this one piqued my interest due to the guest actually starting the Huffington Post, and a company a lot of Canadians are familiar with, BuzzFeed. Not the greatest company, but we definitely heard of them. So, the podcast started out with just a brief introduction and went over how Jonah got started on his journey towards the Huffington Post. And in this, he spoke about the early days of the internet and how he was actually sending an email chain. And this email chain actually blew up and was what we would call today viral, but back in 2000 was just extremely popular. This allowed him to get in touch with a lot more other people, because the chain went on to actually be viewed by thousands or tens of thousands, I believe he said. And he made a couple of new friends through that. And a couple of these new friends thought he was really internet savvy. And one day while he was hanging out with one of these friends, the friend explained to Jonah that there was a very rich investor who was interested in learning about the internet and how it could benefit him and his business. So Jonah said he would take the meeting, and with the promise of using that friend's car for the rest of the day. Once they got to the gentleman's house, they spoke at length for hours about the internet and the ins and outs and what Jonah knew about it and what they could use it for in aspects of business. So after that conversation, they came to a handshake agreement to actually start a business one day involving the internet and his existing company. That business went on to actually become the Huffington Post. Obviously, through trials and tribulations, then they got to be the popular company that we know today. After he was working at the Huffington Post, he wanted to branch out and be a little bit more creative with his content. He didn't want as many restrictions as he had working for that company. So while he was full-time building that business and already built it and was expanding it, he decided to also start a passion project, which we've come today to know as BuzzFeed. And with this passion project, he was just looking for no restrictions in what he wanted to do as far as internet marketing, advertising, etc. There was a lot of red tape that came with news sites. As for sponsors, you couldn't do paid content without disclosing. A lot of red tape in that regards, and Jonah didn't want to deal with any of that. So one of the philosophies he coined when he was starting up BuzzFeed was exactly that. He didn't want any red tape. He wanted to be able to go directly to the sponsors or whomever, and basically created the gray area that we know today between news and, as Donald Trump coined it, fake news. He was the distinguishing, or the sore thumb that actually stuck out. BuzzFeed is the original source to where you couldn't really distinguish between the news articles and the factual information and the false news articles. Through that, he was able to gain a lot of advertising dollars, and it absolutely blew up the company. There was a lot of social media interaction as well. They were huge on YouTube, Instagram, etc. for many years, using other creators as well to sponsor them through BuzzFeed to create content and thus grow the site. After he did this for a while, he was able to branch off and kind of take a background role in the company. But those were the main things that they covered in the podcast. In the podcast, they went over a couple of instances of Jonah actually doing viral stunts. One of them was the email chain that I messaged about earlier. Another was he had a run-in with a Nike employee when they initially released a custom online sneaker tool. He used the tool to actually try and get, let's call them controversial words, printed on the shoes. And he was going back and forth with a Nike rep about this and posted the interaction online. And that was his second viral moment, I guess you would call it. And he realized through the power of the internet, he was able to kind of surpass the regular channels and hop right onto news, radio, TV shows, and discuss the topics that he was, bringing to the forefront, like Nike The word he was trying to get printed on was sweatshop. So that was able to stir up a lot of buzz, and he was on the news talking about sweatshops. Random guy who, created a company and, knows nothing, no background information, and was front and center talking about it just because of a viral moment. So these are the things that he went into detail on the podcast with. He was basically just stating that the power of going viral has not been fully explored and not been fully taken advantage of, and that was one of his main goals when he was doing BuzzFeed, was to fully take advantage of that. That's going to summarize my experience with the podcast. I was going to read verbatim what I wrote, but I figured kind of just transcribing it in my own words would be the best way to do it. So I hope you guys all enjoyed, and thank you very much for your time.